what has been happening and how we started to grow. In 2014, starting with 10%, reaching a peak of 32% of the traded volumes compared to the bilateral contracts. In 2018, COVID affected. In 2019, in 2020, the volumes were low. We're starting to pick up again, and as you can see, we are sitting at 24% as we speak now. But the highest that we have hit is 32% of the trading on the competitive market has been the volume that we have done overall in 2018. The next slide talks about the, let me go back, about the volumes in the last 3 years. What has been the trend in the volumes? I think the trend is showing that if you look at the green line, we have been doing quite well this year up to October. Then you are aware that we were affected by the hydrological situation on the Zambezi due to the low levels at Kariba. So we had a dip in November where the power output on the market was very low, so we couldn't get much power from the hydro stations in Zambia and also in Zimbabwe. We then peaked in December, and as we speak now in February, there was also a dip, and we're expecting this figure for March to also be lower than the previous year. This has been mainly contributed to the low water levels that we have seen. Now, talking about the prices, I am projecting here 3 price periods. I'm talking about the peak period, which is the red line that you see, which is the highest price range that you can get. The highest price that we got was almost 27 US cents per kilowatt hour on peak. Then the second time period is the standard time, where the highest was also in November, the same period that I'm talking about. That's where the highest price range hit almost $22 cents per kilowatt hour. Then on the off peak, which is the green one, we also hit a price of almost 13.5 US cents. But you can see the trend is actually changing, and you cannot predict the prices because this is dependent on the demand and supply position and the pricing arrangements supplied by the various players on the market. Looking at the average prices over the last 8 years, you can see the trend that it is not predictable, but we have seen the prices going up as much as 10 US cents in the last year, and we have seen a 5% drop compared to last year. We are sitting at 9.5 US cents per kilowatt hour when we compare the price for this particular year. We are also running the competitive market at the sub office, and we run this as the market operator. So all the sellers and the buyers into the market send their bids to the sub, and we do the settlement at the sub coordination center. This year alone, we have managed to settle 130.7 million US dollars. That is coming through the competitive market. I'm not talking about the bilateral contracts. Those we don't see, those are settled bilaterally. But what we handle are the competitive trades that pass through the trading platform. So we're handling volumes of almost 130 million US dollars. That is exchanged between the sellers and the buyers in the market. Of course, there's also administration fee that we charge. We charge $1 per megawatt hour for any transaction. There's also wheeling fees that we send back to the participants who are the owners of the transmission network. We also compensate for the losses that are also incurred. We are talking about the Southern African power pools, but we have other power pools in Africa. There are all in all 5 power pools in Africa. We have got the Southern African, Eastern, Comelec in the north, North African, and Central African power pool. We have got some countries who are more than a member of one power pool, like the DRC. They sit both in the Southern African power pool and also in Central African power pool. Tanzania also is a member of 2 power pools. They sit in SAP and also in Eastern African power pool. Angola also is the same. They sit in SAP and also in the Central African power pool. But the objective of these power pools is to have an integrated transmission grid for Africa. So as we start with SAP and EAPP, the long-term objective is to then to interconnect the whole of Africa. then with the long-term objective of having a single electricity market for Africa. So IPPs can join SAP. After fulfilling the requirements, they can sell to any party within the power pool, and all the financial settlement, it will be handled by the SAP. And the currency of trade is always the US dollar or the South African rand, so you would select what currency you would need to participate in. So this is the end of my presentation. You can get the contacts on the website, which is highlighted here. We also have a special website for the market information, sapmarket.com. All the price ranges that we were talking about are also contained on that website, and also our lines are indicated there. We can also get in touch with me directly via email, and we can have the discussion further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Chko. You may take a seat while I ask Dr. Uhobo to come through. He's going to manage the next part of our section, our discussion panel. Dr. Chobo.
Hello. Exhilarating afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Chobo from Chino University of Technology, Department of Fuels and Energy. Well, let me start by thanking Engineer Chko for a trailblazing presentation where you shared insights on energy markets. Now, can I invite W. Nyagwande to join Engineer Chko to the podium? And also Engineer Ndorwe. Is there? PS, are you joining the podium for the panel session? Thank you. I will start by asking Engineer Ndorwe to share insights on the regulatory frameworks surrounding energy marketing and transmission in Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In terms of energy trading in Zimbabwe, we are happy to say that the existing legislation, which is the Electricity Act, Chapter 1319 of 2002, allows various licenses to be issued from generation licenses. We've got transmission licenses, we've got distribution licenses, we also have got supply licenses. So you'll find that when one is issued with a generation license, he has got the option to identify their own off-taker, be it the utility or private sector consumers. So the market is open for energy trading across the various customer categories. In terms of transmission as well, you'll find that we do have two types of licenses that can actually be issued out in terms of transmission. We've got the primary transmission license, which is currently being held by ZTTDC, which gives them the facilities to actually manage power trading within the country and across borders. But the same act then also allows secondary transmission licenses to be issued. And basically where we are looking at investments into the transmission systems to then interconnect the generators to the various load centers. Fortunately or unfortunately, you'll find that most of the investment that has been happening in the country, especially on the generation side, it has come with combined investment in the transmission. So there's that link to say when you're investing in generation, you then also have to invest in transmission infrastructure. But there is room for having private sector participation where people are focusing only on transmission investment so that they move the power from one corner of the country to the other side of the country. But in terms of energy trading, it's open to everyone. You've got generation investments that can come from various technologies that have been highlighted. And there's also an opportunity to invest in terms of transmission to the various consumer categories. So the Act allows that, and it's open to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll ask this one to Engineer Nyangwande from Powertel. Can you elaborate on the role of Powertel in terms of energy marketing?
Thank you so much. I will just take it up from where our permanent secretary and Engineer Nyachowe, highlighted in terms of the role of ICT in the delivery of renewable energies, to the wholesale and retail market. So Powertel's major role within the trading of renewable energies is that it enables trading platforms that ensures that prepaid electricity is able to be bought everywhere. The mandate that we were given some 3 years ago when we were appointed the aggregator of Zimbabwe in terms of electricity delivery was to ensure that every household in Zimbabwe does not travel 5 kilometers to go and buy electricity in terms of trading. But we are happy to report that 80% of the transactions that are now being delivered in Zimbabwe are now at zero distance, because we've put in place solutions and applications where you can now buy electricity using either your mobile phone, through banks, through telecommunications operators. So we have the PEMSEC talked about digitalization. This is already started on the basic platform where we are saying you should just be able to buy your electricity conveniently locally, and that has been done. We are pushing to ensure that, as our sister company ZET Dishes pushes to ensure that everyone is on smart meters, even the farmers, we ensure that they are able to purchase the tokens wherever they are. And we've partnered, using the Powertel system with all the telecommunications mobile operators. You can buy, electricity tokens through them, financial institutions. We have also opened it up to Powertel is the main aggregator at the top, and we have now open it up to everyone who wants to sell electricity, who can connect to any of the selected vendors. So today, if you feel like you want to be a vendor of electricity and improve the selling of electricity tokens everywhere, you can just go through our website, you download the application form, you can either come directly to us or you can go through the other vendors that are there. We have more than 22 major vendors that are selling, and sub-vendors. So which means anyone in Ichkonohono, anyone in Chabalala, in Blawayo, at the end of the market, can actually sell electricity at the end. We have made it very easy and very simple through that system that we have put in place in the market. So what we are also now doing, electricity is also, energy is also prone to vandalism. So Powertel's major role, as you notice, most of the blackouts that do happen are through vandalism. So Powertel's major role is to ensure that we are putting softwares and technologies to protect the energy assets like transformers, and also the investment that is being put in place at Wange 7 and 8. We are ensuring that we are partnering the communities by putting tracking technologies on transformers. We've put the first basic level of tracking those transformers so that we reduce vandalism. So these days, if you try and touch some of the transformers, obviously there will be a reaction, which are also connected to some of the mobile phones of the loss control, the communities, and that's a major role that PowerTel is also playing. So in the other major role, when the sub-presenter was also talking, he talked about transmission. We are also part of that in enabling connectivity within the sub-grid so that we become the preferred ICT service provider within Zimbabwe. And then the other role for PowerTel, which is also very significant, is that we are supporting 100% of the ICT solutions of the ZESA group of companies, which is very critical for the delivery of energy. When I met our PEMSEC, we briefly talked about how we can further improve, the role of PowerTel in terms of launching even intelligent solar tracking. We will ensure that in the future we are able to launch softwares that can actually track the position of the sun so that people can actually know when and how to track and put the power into the grid. Those are some of the solutions that we are researching on and ensuring that we are able to improve efficiency of renewable energies in Zimbabwe. And 80% of PowerTel's role is to support the group, and we then wholesale 15 to 20% of the excess capacity to the commercial world. But 80% of our role is to make sure that energy efficiency, security, and protection is enhanced. So if you want to hear more about PowerTel Communications, you can visit our website, www.powertel.co.zw. So our 4 pillars in terms of our national role is providing super fast, what we call zettabyte internet, super fast carrier. That's where we got the name carrier of carriers. We even carry the bigger operators and using the transmission cables that you see. Those, when you look at the power cables from Harare to Plumtree connecting into Zimbabwe, there are 4 cables. So PowerTel's cable is the one that is the 4th one, which is sort of the 8th wire, which then carries all the transmission from voice to data. So we carry that overhead on the OHL lines that you see. So we play a very critical and major role. And I see there are also international players here. We have a lot of collaborations and partnership opportunities at PowerTel in terms of software development and also in terms of collaboration in funding energy ICT programs. We can have a chat soon after this presentation so that we can explore various ways of collaborating. When we were in South Africa at some point, I was told that 35% Africa is not accessing electricity and data. So what we are doing at ZESA, that we are not at ZESA Holdings, we are not separating electricity and data. Hence we launched what we call total electrification. What we are saying is you can't improve energy efficiency without datafication. So you can't separate those two. So those cables go together. As we get to PEMSEC's rural home, wherever she is, we are able to connect a rural home with electricity and data. Someone is saying time up. Thank you so much. I'll hand over back.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Nyagwande. At this juncture, let me ask PS to give an overall comment, paying particular attention to the challenges and opportunities within energy marketing and transmission in Zimbabwe.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to come in and sort of bring everything together. Because when we are looking at electricity market, I'm happy PowerTel has spoken to the local market where the utility is looking at its own customers, which is its own market. But we then also bring in the regulator who is saying our own policies and legislation allow for those who are producing and selling to choose their customers, with the utility providing the transmission network and the ability to will power from one point to the other. And the third option is that of the regional market, which is not just linking Zimbabwe through the Southern African Power Pool to other markets, but also to other pools within Africa in true fulfillment of the Africa free trade area. So as government, our legislation has always been forward-looking, and it provides for all these market players to be able to come in and do the different interactions. But the biggest opportunity which I want to bring in, which was mentioned by Engineer Nyacho in his presentation, is the need for us to look at the modified market structure locally, which is critical for de-risking projects, especially for those IPPs who are developing projects within Zimbabwe and can identify specific customers who have the capacity to pay and ensure that those customers then have an arrangement with the utility for balancing services and also for transmission use of system agreements. As government, we believe with that market, it then allows us to develop all the projects which we have in the pipeline. If you look at what ZERA has licensed and what we intend to procure competitively, and we want to call upon investors not to look at Zimbabwe as the main market, but to look at the region as a critical mass which can then help them to de-risk their projects by looking at other customers around us. And the need for good transmission systems is key. And I'm happy earlier on we spoke to that issue. So there is now also an opportunity for investors to come into the transmission sector and be members of SAP. And as government, we believe that with this market structure at local and inter IPP versus other customers within, and also at regional and African level, there's an opportunity for people to invest in Zimbabwe and still have a customer who is sitting in Kenya or Tanzania. We believe that that scope is there and it will be fulfilled once the other transmission networks which are under construction now to interconnect the region and allow for sharing of that excess capacity which can exist today in Angola, but we cannot access it in Zimbabwe through the interconnection of the region. So I would like to thank you for allowing us as government to bring in this bigger picture which we've always looked at through our legislation to ensure that the market is bigger than that, just national boundaries. Thank you.
Okay, in the interest of time, I'm not going to allow questions. We interact with the panelists and then we ask questions. A round of applause to our panelists.
Thank you very much. As we continue our conversation, we're going to invite to the podium Mr. Mashinya, who is the CEO of Old Mutual Zimbabwe. Mr. Mashinya will also take us through the financing and funding panel discussion. Mr. Mashinya, a round of applause.
Good afternoon, honorable delegates, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. It is a great honor to be here today as we deliberate on managing future through the possibilities provided by clean energy. This is such a timely and relevant theme, not only for our country, but the whole region and the global economy at large. There is an urgent need for a paradigm shift in how we collectively address our energy needs and fuel our economies for sustainable growth into the future. As Old Mutual Zimbabwe, our purpose is to be our customers' first choice to grow, protect, and sustain their prosperity. Responsible business is at the heart of our purpose, which is to champion mutually positive futures every day. Caring deeply for our customers, communities, and employees is in our DNA and is what sets our business apart in our operating space. As a responsible business, we recognize the vital role we must play to make our interconnected world a better place for all our stakeholders. The ethos of responsible business is anchored in our 177-year history on the African continent and directly connected to our mission, vision, and values. One of the ways in which we deliver responsible business mandate is through responsible investment. We believe it is our fiduciary duty to invest our customers' funds responsibly. In doing so, we have incorporated environmental, social, and governance (ESG) guidelines in our investment processes while we continue to generate sustainable long-term returns. Sustainability is the cornerstone of our ESG guidelines, which encourages the maximization of customer returns while securing the needs and opportunities for future generations. ESG issues are deeply embedded in our investment decision-making process through the investment life cycle. Our responsible investments address a range of challenges relating to infrastructure development, climate change, social inequity, in line with contributing to the attainment of Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, National Renewable Energy Policy, NREP, National Development Strategy 1, NDS1, and Vision 2030. Our efforts have mainly been in the form of funding renewable energy projects and creating platforms that will act as catalysts to stimulate funding into renewable energy. To date, we have funded 2 operational grid-tied renewable energy plants, the 5-megawatt PV Solgas solar plant in Wange that we toured at the onset of the conference, and a 1.6 megawatt Kupinga renewable energy hydro plant in Rusitu. In addition, Old Mutual has also committed funding to the expansion of a 2.5 megawatt PV central grid plant in Nyabera, a 5 megawatt PV Rico solar plant in Gwanda, and a 5 megawatt Great Zimbabwe hydro power station in Masvingo. As part of being truly connected to the renewable energy drive, we have commissioned a PV solar plant at our Harare head office, which generates 0.64 megawatt of solar power, covering the electricity needs of the entire office complex. Notwithstanding our efforts in the renewable energy space that I have briefly shared with you, we acknowledge that we cannot do it alone. Great partners make for great progress possible. As a proudly African business, we know that real transformation and progress cannot be achieved alone. It can only be achieved by people who are bonded by a shared purpose and a collaborative spirit. As Old Mutual Zimbabwe, we are grateful for the opportunity to partner with project promoters, other financiers, regulatory authorities, our government of Zimbabwe, and all relevant stakeholders to collectively apply our creative energies and commitment to support renewable energy projects for the achievement of SDGs 5, 7, 8, 9, 13, and 17 in Zimbabwe, as well as economic upliftment of our nation. Working together, we will succeed in reaching multitudes of people in Zimbabwe and impacting their lives positively in multiple ways. We are excited to be part of the deliberations at this conference and look forward to playing our part in the implementing the insights that are being shared, as well as strengthening relationships with the various players in the energy sector that are represented here. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mashinya, who's the COO of Old Mutual. Right now, I'd like to call upon Mr. V. Utedzi from Central Grid, Akerele from Tatanga Energy, and I'm Akersi from Nyangani Renewable Energy. We also have Mr. Musoso from Old Mutual Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. I think we will start by introductions, a little bit of what we're doing, starting from my extreme right.
Thank you. My name is Ian McCursey. I'm from Nyangani Renewable Energy, an IPP that's been operating since 2007, and we have a number of hydro projects here and in Malawi, and a solar project in Zimbabwe, all feeding into the national grids through long-term PPAs.
Thank you. My name is Tunde Akerele from Tatanga Energy. I'm a former lender. I repented, I saw the light, and I'm now a developer, and well, passionate about trying to make sure that, you know, some of the constraints that we all face as developers are understood, and we start to see solutions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Victor Utedzi from Central Grid. We wake up every day with one thing in mind, to see Africa powered sustainably. That's what really drives us. We built the Central Grid power plant just in Harare. It's been operating in 2019, since 2019. And of course, we are in expansion, taking it to 25 megawatts with the funding, of course, from Old Mutual, and we're very grateful for that. And we also have got funding from NASA, you know. These are local resources coming up with, you know, domestic solutions to our power challenges. We also have got, you know, a number of projects in development on the commercial and industrial scale with PPC. We're also working with Dinson on, you know, for the iron and steel. We are technology agnostic. Our focus is on our clients, supplying them with reliable power, cost effectively, giving them, sort of predictable price paths long into the future. So our focus is on clients, and of course we use whatever technology is best suited to be able to meet that objective. Thank you very much.
I have already spoken to the things that we're doing. We always find it exciting to support projects, promoters who come with all these projects. And it's very encouraging, the amount of work that's going around this. Perhaps just because of our shortage of, if we could just speak a little bit about financing, local financing, your experience, and what we could do more. I think from morning it's clear we've got a gap to cover, but I don't think it's impossible. We can do something. So for the sake of our audience, just for them to have a picture of what we could do to make sure that the funding is available for these projects.
Okay, I'll start. Like I said, we are in expansion. We raised $30 million, in the domestic market, actually. So I'm just mentioning the figure because it's important to actually see that there are things that can be done domestically. And, we're able to raise fairly long debt financing, 10 years, which is good, at very competitively priced money. The method in this market has always been, US-linked sort of financing, even though disbursements can be in Zim dollars, and then we try to access some of that money on the auction, but incredibly so, our financiers have been supporting wherever they can also access some money in US dollars, then they'll give us some money in US dollars, but largely we then go to the auction, and then we access some of that money on the auction market. And there is support actually on the auction market to be able to convert some of that money. It may not necessarily happen as quickly as you would want it, so we have faced some delays here and there, including COVID delays, during our construction. But otherwise, we are delighted that domestically we are actually raising money, particularly on the debt and equity, and also on the other projects we're raising all the equity on the domestic side. And because some of our clients are able to export, we're able also to raise money in international markets. So there are things that can happen, and they're actually happening in the domestic side.
Thank you very much. I agree with Victor. I think it's very, very encouraging, and it's very positive, and I think quite unique across sub-Saharan Africa, where you see domestic institutions supporting longer tenor infrastructure transactions, and that's Old Mutual, and I think the prescribed assets. I think what we're seeing a lot of is the banks. I think they have their own unique set of challenges. I think in order to support the sector, I think their deposits are generally volatile short term, and they need longer term. I think Old Mutual in the past has received some on-lending facilities for housing. Maybe this is something that they're planning to do on energy. But I think, there is a bifurcation in the market. I think you can get projects up to maybe about 20 megawatts or 30 megawatts financed in the local markets. But if you're looking at anything above 30 megawatts, I think you need to start talking to international lenders. And, we all know that that's a very difficult conversation, especially for the first few projects. But I think what I have kind of picked up, is the first few sets of projects will need bulletproof structures. They're going to ask for everything. But once lenders start seeing performance, that these agreements are being honored, tariffs are being paid, etc., a lot of the requirements that they require will start to fall away. So I think that the domestic market seems to be working well, and I think they've become comfortable with it. But I think the next challenge for this space is to start attracting foreign domestic investment, foreign direct investment into the segment. Thank you.
We've done both, and I agree with the previous speakers. Local finance can work. We've raised 2 prescribed asset bonds. Both have been a waste of time, sorry to say that, because the currency depreciated so fast, okay? And bear in mind, the reason we specifically went the prescribed asset route was to demonstrate that ZETDC was good for its money to the wider public. It is good for its money, but the currency issue remains. Now, you guys are building projects using local finance, but you can't build them very fast, and that's a real risk to the project. We found that our most successful projects have had funds raised offshore, and I agree with you, the lenders get very confident as you roll out projects. We were rolling out a project a year, and we were doing it in advance of a PPA because the lenders had so much confidence. All that changed when the currency issues came to light. So it's a bit of this and a bit of that, but it's all difficult.
Are there any questions? Our time is almost up. Any questions for the panel?
Yes, there's a question that's on the screen. If you can take them, there's just before you, you can see it. It's directed to Old Mutual.
Okay. The one I can see is what is Old Mutual's criteria for financing renewable projects in Zimbabwe? I think it's an issue of a business case. It must be viable for both Old Mutual and the promoter as well. But we are into renewable energy. What I would encourage every prospective promoter is when you have a project, just come and see us. Sometimes perhaps you may be doubting certain elements, or through experience, we can help each other and make it viable, and then it can be supported. That would be my encouragement. Let's talk.
Allow me to just give you the 2 questions here.
Yes, sure.
And then maybe you can find time between the 4 of you to tackle. It says, what's the preferred financing model, and give details on the cost of project finance. And then the other one is, lastly, what has been the debt service experience on existing financed projects? So anyone can take that question.
Okay, from our side, the experience has been good. You know, with every project, you hardly get 100% of them to run well. But if you achieve, if most of them succeed, I think that's a good rate. The sort of things we help promoters with helps a lot to make these projects viable, successful. So I would say it's been a good run so far. And then in terms of costs, yeah, there's several factors that affect costs. We generally go into equity and debt financing. So the project itself generally guides us as to what the mix is and also what the promoter's wishes are. Some just want equity to get launched and they take off. Some want us to stay a bit longer. So depending on the nature of the project and the financial requirements, cost then comes in, and also the financing structure.
I've got a question which I would like the panelists to sort of highlight. I know financing remains an area of pain, and I think I like the candid issues which were raised by Makesi. I would like you to also propose what is it we need to do together as a sector to improve the environment under which we know the issues of exchange rate are real, and we are facing them as an economy. But I would like some recommendations from all parties, including Old Mutual, who would like to appreciate your role in leading the process and taking a risk on renewable energy projects, which has opened up the way for more financial institutions to come on board. Some recommendations which we would want to be part of this conference, so that we can be able to engage with the Ministry of Finance on what is it as developers and also financiers you would want to see happening from government, apart from some of the instruments which were put in place.
Thank you very much. I will ask the panelists to chip in very briefly.
Thank you, Secretary. My contribution for that is we are working on the commercial and industrial sort of clients, and we have seen international financiers are actually interested in some of the key customers, the likes of the intensive energy user group sort of type. But at the end of the day, what is attracting international financiers is a customer who is able to export. So it's very important that they're able to export, and the export proceeds are paid directly before the money is remitted into the country. I know those are some of the issues that the government implementation agreement is trying to address, things like currency convertibility, financial guarantees when it comes to ZTDC offtake. But when it comes to the commercial and industrial, some of them have got very good credit, so they are bankable. But the issue of currency convertibility, our banking environment, our sort of domestic environment, as Tunde outlined, it needs to be tested first by financiers. And this is why initially the first few projects, you will see that they will insist that money is paid directly from the proceeds of the exports. It's typical when you are the first project. But over time, of course, as confidence is built, you will see that they will be more comfortable with domestic banking arrangements, and then you can build from that that success. But that's what typically happens. And with that, a customer who is able to export, we actually have been able to close on financing. And we're talking about very long, term financing, even longer than what we've seen in the domestic financing market. So we're confident that as more exporting customers are able to come through, there is actually money for that. Let me leave to my colleagues for further.
Thanks. I think there are three things that I'd like to highlight. And I think the big elephant in the room is currency. Currency is what people worry about the most. I think the first thing is significantly around currency. I think Victor has mentioned some of the industrials. In other countries which are even more currency constrained, you're still able to get transactions done in certain industries, whether it's oil and gas or mining, because lenders understand that it's so fundamentally important to the country that they would never play with defaulting on those obligations. So signaling, I think, is also important. If we could signal that this sector is so important, we're not playing with it and we will not default, I think that goes some way. I think secondly, in terms of currency and payment, I think for where we are in our journey, I think realistically you do need some liquidity support. So whether it's the 6-month or 12-month, everybody hates it, LC or whatever. I think that's a big part, especially for international lenders. And then I think the third thing I'd like to just highlight is projects just take too long. I think a lot of developers have been on this journey for 5, 6, 7 years, and the cost of development is just too high. I think government is putting in the standardized PPAs and GIAs, which I think will go a long way to addressing it. But if we can compress those development cycles to 18 months or 2 years, I think everybody would be better off. Thank you.
Thank you. You specifically asked what government could do. I think the whole issue boils down to confidence. Lenders, especially foreign lenders, but even Old Mutual, must have confidence. And they can't have confidence on a promise. To be blunt, 3 years ago in Nyanga, we were promised an implementation agreement and a standardized PPA. We have yet to see it. We can't wait 3 years. We need these guarantees or some mechanism to give lenders confidence. We need it now. And we as ZIPA, we have the Zimbabwe Independent Power Producers Association, we have made recommendations to the Reserve Bank to set up some sort of US dollar escrow that guarantees repayment of loans. It's not a lot of money, believe it or not, but it's a guarantee that if you go through, you get a generation license, you get a PPA, you have a tariff, in all of that process, you have got foreign loans registered with the Reserve Bank. The repayments are registered. It's all on black and white. And all you want is to say, if Bank A lent us $10 million, these are repayments and these are the dates, and the Reserve Bank says, we will lock that money in and pay it on due date against, of course, a receipt from the company that's borrowed it. That sort of thing will go a long way, and it's easy, and it's not a lot of money. But it's that sort of action, prioritizing the energy sector, saying it's fundamental to the economy of the country. Those sorts of things would make a big difference.
Right. Thank you very much for all the points. One of the things, it's already happening, so I just want to encourage it. It's to have a forum like this one, and the ministry is with us, as you have done, so that as Old Mutual, we're supporting, if you notice, a lot of these forums in the marketplace. The reason is to bring all of us together, brainstorm, work out what solutions we can have, and so forth. So we really, I just want to thank the ministry very much for, this sort of forums, and also private sector organizers. The last one, it's also just to encourage the ZESA. I think in an earlier discussion, they talked around net metering. I think paying cash for the difference incentivizes those who can do more, and also settlement regardless of location, which they have already, I think either they're still working on it or they are about to implement it. I think it incentivizes those who can produce. I am sure our time is up, but there was a last hand here. Yes.
Okay, my question to Old Mutual is, firstly, I would want to appreciate the effort as well as the support that you have given to some of the projects that we have supplied to as one of the module suppliers. However, that has been in the utility segment. So I wanted to find out from you that do you have financing packages for the C&I space, especially for small commercial industrial or the rooftops, as well as for the factories? Because I see that that's the trend where solar deployment is going through.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Yes, we do. And I would really want to encourage anybody who's got a project like that to come, let's engage, let's understand, and then we work it out. Yeah, okay. Our time is up. Thank you very much for your questions.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and especially to Mr. Mashi. We placed you on the chopping block, and I think you did a good job of it. I think we need to give him another round of applause. My take home is, from his end, is come, let's talk. I think I'm not going to say this, but I think there's a lot of funding that we can unlock when we sit down and discuss these matters. Another antidote, so I'll just ask us to stand up for a while. It's an antidote. I think you can almost see those who need the antidote. I shall proceed when all those who need that pill stand up. So I think you can coach the others to say, please, we're not going to sit down until everyone stands up. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. There's a banner at the back there. I'm going to ask questions around that. It's actually on my extreme, so I'd like everyone to look at it. And there's another one on my right, where Engineer Makesi side. Okay. Thank you for the exercise. You may be seated. Alpha Media Holdings has just informed me that we'll be having a raffle so that people can have a 30-day subscription to their media and their papers. So I'm just going to ask when you have time and space to just drop off your business card outside where those registration taking place. If you haven't got a business card, just write your name on a piece of paper and the organization you're coming from, and then just give it to the guys who are at the back, and we'll proceed with, I think the results will come out tomorrow, so please don't forget that part. Okay, I'll use this one. COVID tests. Just checking, how many have managed to go for the test? Okay, right. Okay, thank you very much. How many have not gone yet? I just want to see. All right. By the powers vested in me, you may leave the conference room and quickly dash there. I don't think there are any people at the thing, and have your COVID test taken. Thank you very much for complying. I know Victor is afraid of that little thing going in his nose. Yeah, but okay. Thank you, Victor. There was another hand on that end, and then another hand at the back. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. I want to invite the business development manager for Jinko Solar, Sammy Brothif. You'll forgive me if I don't pronounce it properly. You'll correct me when you do come here. You're going to make a presentation, and once he's done, I'm also going to ask Solar Energy Projects, Mr. S. Smythe, to come through. We've got SAKE Energy Solutions to come through, and Nyangani Renewable Energy to come through for another panel discussion.
So good afternoon, everyone. And on behalf of Jinko, we want to thank everyone, the organizers and the audience, for having time to attend this conference. So these are my names. Pronunciation is Sami Borothi. So I'm the business development manager for Jinko Solar, and I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. So I'll take few of your minutes. So who are we as Jinko? So we are the leading in terms of solar PV manufacturing. And as you can see, we also an integrator in terms of energy storage. We have managed to ship more than 130 gigawatts. That is as at January this year to over 160 countries globally, and including 17 gigawatts in the US and Canada. So in terms of global shipment, as you can see, we've done 130 giga. Then globally, we command a market share of 14%, and with 22 world records. Then our module capacity in terms of facilities, we have a module capacity of 70 giga, so supplying globally. What is our core business? So as Jinko, we do wafer. Wafer is more of the raw product that we're able to heat it at very high temperatures to have the cells. Then from the cells, we're able to get the modules. And I'm sure most of you are not aware that as Jinko, we're also in the BPI PV, which is building integrated photovoltaic for buildings, that you can be able to harness solar through these modules, which is very good in terms of the architectural design. Then at the far end, we have the ESS, what we call the energy storage solutions, both for the residential and for utilities and for commercial. So in terms of our facilities, you can see we're having 12 production facilities globally. We have a factory in Florida. We're also having factories in Malaysia, Vietnam, and you can see the rest is China. So it's good to mention that down there at the far end, you can see we have 35 service centers globally, which is very key in terms of our customer support. So what we are looking at in terms of technology is what we call the Tiger Neo module. And you can see we've been able to reach, we are the first company to reach efficiencies of 25.7% in terms of efficiency. And that power class or that technology, we've been able to ship more than 10 giga. And the technology is based on what we call the Tiger Neo or the N-type technology. So as you can see, we have come from very far. As you can see from the previous year, our efficiencies are improving on year-to-year basis. So, and one of the reasons that I want to reiterate on this is because we invest 10% of our revenue in terms of R&D. And that's why you can see we are looking at 1.274 billion yuan in terms of R&D. And as you can see, our efficiencies are 25.7%. So that is what we are having as our module efficiency for the N-type Tiger Neo. So what is our business model? So we have Jinko Solar, we have distributors, and we have distributors in the SADC region, we have East Africa, we have West Africa, and at the far end, we also work directly or collaborate directly with the IPPs and the EPCs. Then at the far end, we have the off-taker. So in the three regions, the SADC, the East African, and the West African region, we are having representation where we are here being the SADC region. So just an overview of what we are looking at in terms of our production facilities. So these are our new, these are some of our new factories, 16 giga in terms of production, TopCon, cell capacity. So we have another factory in Malaysia, 6.4 giga in terms of cells, then 5.1 gigawatts in terms of modules. Then the other one is in the US, the capacity is 400 megawatts, serving that market. So in terms of international awards, we've been able to, we were added the 2022 PVL in terms of reliability scoreboard. Then in terms of UEPD, we got another award this year. So you can see in terms of bankability, we're able to assure you in terms of quality of our products. So some of our major customers globally, the likes of EADF, we do collaborate also with financiers. We have the likes of NG, Total, Marubeni, Power China. So we all collaborate, we collaborate with different players in the market, be the financiers, the IPPs, and also the EPCs. Why Jinko as your preferred partner? Number one, it's very important to mention about quality. Then again, it is important to mention about the customer support and bankability. And I think bankability will touch more on the IPP projects that are probably going on. So bankability, even as you leave this room, what is important for us is what probably I would suggest you remember about Jinko is quality, customer support, and bankability. So in terms of the recent case studies, you can see these are some of the recent projects. We've done 55 megawatts in Kenya through Jinko. Then we also have another one, 48 mega. Of course, there are quite a number of projects that we are having in the SADC region, in the sub-Saharan market. So I've been able to capture a few. But yes, you can see that we are a bankable partner and we are there to offer you support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that submission. You were running. I wanted to keep you on stage. But anyway, thank you very much for your presentation. I think it will be supported by Millicent when she comes through. At this stage, I'll ask you to also come through for our panel discussion. Sebastian Smith. Okay. Take a seat. Just checking here, but I'm not sure whether. Just checking here, but I'm not sure whether this organization is here. It's SAKE Energy Solutions, or any one of their representatives. I've actually got them here. All right. Okay. I think I shot myself in the foot. I'm just realizing I asked Victor to go for his jab or test. He's the facilitator of this section. So I'll try my best to cover up for him. But our discussion at this stage is solar energy session. We're going to ask the three of them to just share a bit about their background and where we are going in terms of solar energy, especially in Zimbabwe. So I'll just hand over the mics and we'll take over.
Thanks so much, Wilson, for giving us the opportunity. My name is Millicent Chidamba. I'm the Sales Deputy Director for Jinko Solar SADC region, based in South Africa. So I've been with the solar space for almost 15 years now. And in terms of the progression, I've seen how the solar industry has progressed over the past years. To start off from, I think what has driven the adoption of solar energy is because of the cost as well as the technology advancement. I would want to believe that some of you in this room have seen that most of the projects, when they started, they were with the polycrystalline. That was the technology by then. And if you look at the power output of those panels by then, you were looking at 330, which was pretty much like, the ceiling, the top ceiling when it comes to power output, as well as the module efficiency, you were looking at 15%. But if you track now to 2023, like what my colleague has just said with regards to the N-type, which is the Tiger Neo from Jinko, we've seen a progression in terms of technology, where we're now looking at maximum power output of 620 watt panel for a single solar panel. So that speaks in terms of the technology advancement, as well as the efficiency of the solar panel itself, that you're looking at about 22% and cell efficiency of almost 26%. So what that does is it sort of feeds into your project with regards to your energy yield output as well as the financial model, is you are now able to harness more energy from that. Then that's one angle. And also the other thing that was witnessed is the cost of solar panels. You can realize that within the past decade, we've seen that the price of solar panels has gone down by almost 70%, which means now that there is no absolute reason where that argument comes into play that, you know what, I can't do solar because solar is expensive, because now solar is proven to be one of the cheapest technology to deploy. And also it's quicker as well as easier to deploy, that it can be deployed even in the remotest of the remotest areas. So in a nutshell, I think solar energy has proven a case. It has proven to the world that it's also bankable. I would want to hand over to the next speaker.
Good afternoon. How are you guys? Good, good. My name's Sebastian Smythe. I'm the Managing Director of Solar Energy Projects Zimbabwe. We are a small to medium-sized enterprise which focus on battery-based solar systems. We are also EPC contractors, and we've been around and in business for about 15 years now, and have some work experience before that. I've been around in renewable energy and solar from the days that it was $5 a watt and extremely hard to sell, believe me. And I've watched the industry grow, the amount of companies trading in solar increase, the skill levels increase, the innovation levels increase, and the general enthusiasm towards it increase, and seen it blossom into a really viable space. Interesting and possibly a technology that's going to save our country's energy sector in the long run. I'm also Millicent's best customer in Africa, just in case you wanted to know.
Before you hand it over, it's Wilson. I think I'll allow to play just that 2-minute video. It's up, so that we can just have a feel of how you wanted to introduce the discussion. Sebastian, is there a thank you from you?
Thanks very much, Wilson. So the video on screen is a commercial farm. We've installed a 224 kilowatt east-west fixed array to run a 75 kilowatt 100 horsepower pump for 10 hours in winter and 11 hours in summer. You'll note the panel's directions are pretty aggressively steep, 55 degrees east, 55 degrees west. That produces a very flat output, almost constant output for 10 hours in winter and 11 hours in summer. You've got about 50% over paneling, more than you would put on the normal system. But what you get is an additional 3.5 hours of runtime per day, which means that the farmer doesn't have to have a pump that is 50% larger, a pipeline that is 50% larger, and a pivot that moves around the farm, around the field 50% faster. So it's a very maintenance-free system. Nothing moves. The angle of the panels means that they are self-cleaning when it rains, and they get a lower amount of dust build up. And we've had a lot of success with this. This system is a grid hybrid, grid solar hybrid, which means that if there's not enough sun and there is grid available, the system will automatically use a certain amount of ZESA to top up the energy to drive the pumping system. If there is no ZESA and there is overcast weather, the system will reduce the power output to the pump, but generally after a few months or a month, the farmers get a handle of it. Instead of running 3 pivots, they'll turn one off to to make do with the lower power output. And we've had a lot of success. The farmer that you see in this video is called Graham Ross. We try to get a delivery metric good enough that the client becomes our next best salesman. So that's our goal at the end of all of our projects, is to have the client so happy with the job that he sells the next system. Cheers.
Thanks, Sebastian. Thanks, Millicent. My name is Koen Bosch. I'm from NRE. Although we specialize in mini hydro stations, we wanted to show that solar PV is doable in Zimbabwe, and we wanted to encourage potential developers and investors in solar utility scale solar projects in Zimbabwe. So in 2017, we developed Zimbabwe's first utility scale solar PV plant just outside Mutoko. It's the 2.5 megawatt Riverside power station. This we developed with the use of multiple different technologies in this, say, test phase 1. Mono panels that Millicent sold to us, 340 watt cutting edge at the time. Poly panels, single axis tracking, and fixed inclination arrays too. We've managed to get a lot of data from this plant, and the intention was for that data to inform us what we should do with the expansion, because the intention was for this to be a 10 to 15 megawatt plant. Unfortunately, it's still only a 2.5 megawatt plant. Hopefully, we'll be able to expand it in due course.
Good afternoon. I apologize on behalf of Wilson for sending us out at the time that we're supposed to come on stage. My name is Intabiseng Sirite. I'm the CEO of SAKE Energy Solutions. I hail from a country that goes on shutdown from time to time, which is South Africa. I'm based in Johannesburg. And our company was formed particularly to come up with automation solutions for renewable energy plants or generation sources. I'm glad that I'm sitting with people who are very familiar with the word automation. And I also like the word that the words I've been hearing, like efficiency, since the beginning of the morning. We have solutions to improve your efficiencies, your plant availability, because when we talk about renewable energy, we can't shy away from talking about your construction, your operations, the maintenance of these particular plants, because somebody earlier this morning spoke about beneficiation, which means more people. So the operations, there has to be a way that it's managed, and it comes with challenges. So we provide automation solutions in industrial and different processes, particularly renewable energy, because we have more experience in that field, be it solar, PV or CSPs, hydro, biomass, geothermal, which we have intensively worked with in Kenya, and many other places. But I'm glad to also announce that in South Africa, we have delved into at least 4 of the renewable energies, which is mainly solar, hydroelectric, biomass, and wind. The one that has most potential being the solar, but the one that contributes the most to grid, funny enough, is biogas. So with our automation solutions, we are able to provide you with critical data to be able to know your generation at any given time. Is it Dion earlier who mentioned the importance of logging? So we're talking about online data collection for you to make informed decision around your demand at any given time, and also how much you're generating. Whether it's in greenfield projects or brownfield projects, we have systems where you can plug in what you already have, like PowerTel was talking about, measurements of your metering. We have smart metering systems that can work with any other third-party solution. So that's basically what we do in the renewable energy space.
Thank you very much for the introductions and the information you've just shared. I want to open up this time to the audience. I'm sure there's some questions that people would like to invest more in discovering the solar side of things, where we are and where we've been, where we are going, and even the opportunities that might arise as a result of the work that you are doing in your different spaces. Just a comment that I've just noted, Millicent, if we were outside there, I'm saying you're making a lot of money with us, eh? With everyone is pushing your product, and it's a good job that you're doing. We see that Jinko Solar is really moving in, and I see the two gentlemen have attested to that. But just something that I need to understand in terms of your Zimbabwean approach, in terms of the domestic uptake.
Okay, thanks, Wilson, for the question. So with regards to our approach as Jinko, perhaps let me just first give you a bird's overview. So we have pretty much 3 segments that we sort of service into. We've got the utility segment, which is your solar farms. Then there's C&I, that's pretty much like our global strategy wherever you go for Jinko, be it in Latin America, in Europe, in China, as well as in Africa. So we've got the C&I segment where we deal directly with the EPCs as well as the installers. Then we've got the last segment, which is the distribution. And fortunate enough that on this panel I've got one of my distributors, solar energy projects. So their role is now to tap into that domestic traffic or domestic market where we've got your domestic users or your small installers that want to buy, say, 1 pallet or 5 panels, then they can go through our distribution network. So that's pretty much like our approach in Zimbabwe. And in fact, we do have 5 distributors in Zimbabwe. One of them, solar energy projects. There's One Stop Solar. There's Vausa Zimbabwe. And then there's Mast Power. So that's where we are with regards to the distribution for the Zimbabwean market. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? I may open up for questions from the audience or participants. I'll allow for 2 questions. Engineer Mhlanga.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd send the question in on Slido, but I can ask to the lady there. Is your automation software applicable to already existing buildings where one wants to get data in terms of usage of energy and the rest of the other things, or it only applies to new buildings and new setups?
Okay, it applies to whether existing or new. So on existing, we have plugins that allow to collect data even from the instrumentation that you already have. Let's say, for example, you already have power meters that you're currently using to collect power usage. And then now you want to extend to other types, other different buildings, and you want to measure something else, pressure or something. They integrate. So it's easily scalable, and it easily works with other systems as well.
Dr. Zugi, you may take it.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for Nyangani Renewable Energy on the, I heard you said you were comparing the performance of systems that are configured to be fixed and the tracking. What has been the results? Is it beneficial financially to do tracking systems for the area where you did your installations? Then a similar question for solar energy projects. I think you, as you rightly put it, it's an aggressive tilt angle. So I also wanted to know what would be the cost benefit analysis for it, because then you have to put more panels And I want to understand the economics of and the benefits of having a system that configured that way. My colleagues from the university are teaching people to always put them at a different angle than that. Then lastly, to Jingo, what are the warranties and guarantees for the products that you support? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ziugu. So yes, from years of data that we've analyzed, single axis tracking is the best economic solution for large-scale utility connected PV, or at least at our location. It developed about 20% more energy per annum compared to the fixed arrays. And despite the higher initial capital cost for single axis trackers, they pay themselves back within 4 years.
Thank you for your question, Dr. Jalku. Okay, so the economics are as follows. For a north-facing solar pumping system of a commercial scale, you will need at least 2 times motor size. So if you have a 75 kilowatt motor, you would need to put at least 150 kilowatts of PV in order to gain stability on that motor and that pumping system. To do an east-west system, you have to do 3 times motor size. So you're putting 50% more PV. The reason we do this, okay, is because we live in Zimbabwe and we have unstable grid supply. So the reason people use north-facing in the rest of the world is because they've got fairly consistent grid supply, and if you're going to put your panels in any direction, north, well, if you're in the northern hemisphere, south-facing, would be the most amount of energy yielded throughout the day. But they can feed every last watt back into the grid. In Zim, we need to look at how we use the power. If we did it north-facing, then we would have, and there was no power for the day, by 9 o'clock we would get over the amount of power we need to run the pump, and then the panels would just have to stop there, and then at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it would drop below. So we would have cut off all the peak energy from the array, and that would all be lost. If we do the east-west, we're essentially getting almost 50% more runtime from the system. Okay, yes, we are getting less efficiency, but we're getting 10 to 11 hours of perfectly flat and consistent output. So if we do 224 kilowatt array east-west, we'll probably get about 100 kilowatts consistently from about 7 a.m. to about 5 p.m. every day. So we only need 75 kilowatts, but the weather's never perfect in Zim. We're blessed with good rain. So slight clouding brings that efficiency down a bit, and then you have to have over efficiency for for degradation over 25 years. So in 25 years, the system should still be working. We used extremely high quality Jinko panels, and that's the economics of the design. For the farmer, he wants not only the 10 hours of pumping, just because he wants 10 hours of pumping, but if he had to pump purely off solar and use 6 hours of power or 6 hours of generation, his pump size would have to be 50% bigger, which would mean his array size would have to be 50% bigger anyway. But his pipeline would also have to be 50% bigger. The nozzles on his pivot would have to be 50% bigger. The amount of water coming out might not be, you might not actually be able to let that amount of water out of the pivot because it might flood the soil and create erosion. So the design is specifically tailored for farmers and enabling them to use their irrigation package that they already have and to get around the field consistently and over a longer period and work within the usual daylight hours, which means that it's business as usual after you get one of these systems installed. Thanks. Does that answer everything? Thank you, sir.
So to answer you with regards to the warranties, we have got two types of technologies, the P-type as well as the N-type. So with the P-type, your performance warranty, we're looking at 25 years, and then the product warranty is 12 years. But when it comes to N-type, which is pretty much like the heat these days, the performance warranty is 30 years, and the product warranty is 12 years. And that 30-year warranty applies both to bifacial as well as monofacial. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll allow for maybe one or two comments from the panelists as we prepare to round up this segment, if you still have anything to share.
Yeah, just to also put emphasis on the word that has been flying around the whole day, efficiency. I like what Tanya said earlier, that efficiency, we can't just look at it as a form of energy efficiency, as in a form of output from your generation, but also every block that contributes to generation of power needs to be efficient. Every asset needs to be efficient. So that's also what we look at, making sure that every asset performs as it should. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So my parting shots with regards to solar energy, I think it has proven itself. And with regards to, in line with the theme of this conference, that tapping on the possibilities, I think with solar, in line with what Sebastian had shared with us with regards to his video clip, where that solar energy can also be used in an agricultural setup. We've seen that in China as well. We also have floating solar as well that can be combined with some, with the hydro in areas where there's hydro. So there's a lot of possibilities with regards to solar energy deployment. Thank you.
I would just like to also point out that had we not been in an energy crisis over the last few years, we wouldn't have had the motivation to probably move this program along as far as it's got to this point. Speaking to Southern African Power Pool equivalent Green Pool, which is also an energy trading company, they've said that the Zimbabwean government have been excellent and so far advanced. I think dealing with PPAs in the private sector, probably with having to deal with Kun and Ian quite a lot. So yeah, we are very blessed to live in this country and to have the forward-thinking people in government who are driving this program forward and letting our voices be heard into what we need to get this program moving forward further, and we hope that we carry on.
I don't have any parting remarks. Thanks very much for listening to us.
Thank you very much. I think government, I think something very positive was said, and I'd like to ask anyone in government to give them a very solid round of applause as they leave the stage. They really spoke on your behalf. I think especially the last one. They're blessed to be in Zimbabwe. Okay, I think we're left with one session today. But before we do that last session, I pray for your patience, and I also pray for your timekeeping. We're just going to have tea and quickly come back, have our last session, and it will be quits for the day. So if we can move quickly to the tea points, have a cup of tea, come back for the last session, and we close off for the day.